FM Corner. I'm Danny Koontz. Today, a very special guest. With me is Gene Davis. Gene is Senior Director of Facilities for Mendocino Farms. We've been friends for many, many years, and I think you're going to enjoy our talk today. How's it going, Gene?
It's going wonderful, Danny. Glad to be here. It's like old times.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Let's start. Talk a little bit about your career path. Kind of how did it unfold, and you kind of got from where you started to where you are today?
This is one of the things I love to talk about, Danny. I have had such a fortunate career and owe it to so many people. But I started out as a Marine. I was a U.S. Marine. I spent about 8 years in the Marine Corps, most of that active, some reserve time, and got out of the Marine Corps. You know, I knew how to do a lot of really cool things, but the most important thing I knew how to do was to lead people, men and women, in less than ideal circumstances and challenging circumstances. So naturally, I went into restaurant management. I joined. I got a restaurant manager job in Philadelphia. Joined Ponderosa Steakhouse, and back when Jeff Dover was facility manager for Ponderosa way back in the day. Did that for a few years. I became multi-unit, and in the very early 90s, I joined a great company called Ruby Tuesday. And that's where we met. I spent 17 years at Ruby Tuesday in operations. I was started off as a general manager. I became a managing partner. I was actually the company's first senior managing partner, and then became a director of operations for quite a few years after that. Just loved, an amazing company. We did some wonderful, wonderful things back then. I think it was 2008, I was recruited by a company called Bruegger's Bagels, and Bruegger's was very big, bagels, coffees, and I was hired as the market director, and I had all the Brueggers from New York down through Virginia. Wonderful, experience. I was with them for about a year, and my boss at the time came to me, his name was Donald, and said, "Hey, we're in a bit of a pickle. We're about to get purchased by a larger company called Group LaDuff, and part of the deal is that we have to have so many 35 remodels, I think it was, and spend so much money, X amount of money on fixing our facilities. And facilities are a shambles. We don't have a facility department. We have a very good person who orders equipment when we need it, but we have no structure." He said, if you do that for the next 6 to 9 months, when the deal goes through, you could do whatever you wanted. So I gave it a shot. Remodeled 45 Bruegger's Bagels, spent a whole lot of money fixing many, many things. And when that time was up, about 6 months in, I went to Donald and I said, I know exactly what I want to do. Here's my job description. Here's my requested salary. And that's I became the director of facilities. I was with them probably another 4 or 5 years after that, and then picked up construction. I learned construction, built a lot of Bruegger/Caribou co-brands. Great time, great run. And then I think it was late 2013, early 2014. I joined California Pizza Kitchen, and CPK was a whole other level. Another amazing organization I was so fortunate to belong to. Eventually became senior director of construction and facilities. Built restaurants, remodeled restaurants, and fixed restaurants, and quite a run there. About 5 years ago, shortly before COVID, mid-2019, got an interesting call from a company called Mendocino Farms. And they said, hey, we're looking for somebody. And it took a little time. My old boss says it was like courting, like a relationship, But I joined them, and, this has been the ride of my life. I think We had, I want to say we were on restaurant 27, store number 27 when I joined, and we are about to open number 70 in a few
That's
weeks.
great.
And that's through COVID. That's through 2 years or 2.5 years of insanity. So,
That's great.
very, very great run. I've had the ability to learn, get my CFRP, which I did about 10 years ago, get my PMP, and through the whole thing, earn a master's degree, earn an MBA degree. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's a great story, and I think, and you and I share this. You started in operations, and you went operations to facilities.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
went facilities to the service side, to the vendor
Yeah.
side, and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it is always great when you have perspective on both sides of the coin.
I agree 100%. And I always tell the operators, I said, it's a double-edged sword because number one, I could empathize with you. I get it. I understand what you want. But on the other hand, when you tell me you can't clean this or this is too hard, I throw the flag and I say, no, sorry, I did it.
Right.
So
that's great. I think it adds a lot of perspective, and it helps people do their job better when you can certainly
sure.
been on the other side and understand.
Yep, agree 100% with you.
Speaking of operations, what's the biggest lesson you learned, Gene, in managing operations all those years? The one lesson.
Oh boy, I would have to say, I know it's a cliche sometimes, but it is a people business.
Mm-hmm.
It is no matter what business you're running, you're in a people business. And I think the relationships, I think an old mentor of mine said to me one time, he said, Gene, the two most important things you're ever going to do as a leader, the two most important decisions you're going to make is who you hire and who you promote. That will make your life wonderful or it will make your life miserable. And I remember that. I think that's probably the top lesson I've learned as an operator.
That's great. And I think, there's a lot of things you can take from operations into facility management that although they're different, they're really the same. You're managing crisis, you're managing people, you're managing companies that are doing work for you on the facility side. At the end of the day, you're a crisis manager, whether you're in operations or you're in facilities. I mean, that's what you're doing.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
Sure. You mentioned mentors. Who are your mentors, Gene?
Wow. So many people over the years. I've always had the philosophy, Danny, hey, you work for a lot of people, take the very best out of everyone and use that and incorporate that. But there's probably a few that stand out. So one, and you know her well, Gina Shivery.
Sure.
Gina was my boss for 17 years. She put up with me for 17 years at all different levels in Ruby Tuesday. And I tell you, I learned so much from Gina. It was amazing. She always used to tell me I talk too much and need to listen more. And I remember to this date, Bob Baldini, another person who you remember,
sure,
gave me it's who you hire and who you promote. He took a very raw person, cocky young person, and taught a lot about professionalism and integrity and making right decisions. Believe it or not, Danny Koontz, because you gave me the opportunity to learn about facilities and construction. Because we did a big remodel project together. We remodeled, I don't know how many it was. You probably know the number better than me.
Almost
but for me, it was 900. For me, it was 15. I had 15 Ruby Tuesdays that I remodeled. And I still remember we went to Tennessee and all the directors were there and you gave a great class on this. And you said, oh, by the way, you guys are going to do this, because this is the only way we're going to get it done. And here's your budget. And I went back and I became a project manager.
Right.
And I know there was a lot of questions and things during that whole process. So really look up to you for that.
I
Uh,
certainly appreciate that.
oh, you got it, my friend. California Pizza Kitchen, Scott Wagers. Scott Wagers is the best person in construction. I thought I knew a lot about construction and facilities, and then I went to CPK and met Scott, and we're still great friends to this day. We still hang out now and then, but he taught me so much about construction, so much about facility at a whole different level, and I take that. And my boss right now, Reed Tusey, and Reed's our chief development officer at Mendo, an amazing real estate mind. He signed every lease, all 70 plus leases, including ones we're doing in the future, and really taught me about details and looking from things at every angle. It's something he's just really good at. And, that's something I'll carry on forever.
Great. Uh, when you mentioned Tina, Keenan was just awesome as a
Oh my God.
person and great to work with. And Bob Baldini, the ultimate teacher.
Yes. Yeah.
Never got real high, never real low. You had conversations, and when you were done, you're like, man, I learned something, and I learned something every time. Just one of the best communication, talking people I've ever been around in my life.
Yeah, and I was a little bit of a know-it-all back then. I was a little bit cocky back then, like a lot of
Most
people.
Ruby Tuesday people.
Yeah, exactly. And but Bob always taught me the tough lessons, and he did it in a very professional way. And I still teach people the same lessons now. It's amazing.
Exactly. Just like when you called out something he had taught you that stays with you all this time,
All the time.
there are things that you just remember.
All the
You
time.
and during your facility time, you also became a member of RIFMA, the Restaurant Facility Management Association, as a member and then a board member, which you currently are, which is great. Talk about that just a minute or so of your kind of involvement with the board and what that's kind of meant or helped your career.
Wow. I love talking about RIFMA. I joined RIFMA right as I became a facility person back, I think it was 2009. And I really couldn't imagine my facility life without RIFMA, to be honest with you. Like, I couldn't imagine doing this as a solo flyer, right? Um, the knowledge, the resources, the CFRP, and really important, the camaraderie, the group. It's just an amazing, between the RIFMA staff, the leadership, the members of the board, the advisory council, which I know you served on for many years.
Famous Old People Committee.
Oh, but yes, yeah, I'll be on that committee at some point joining you. Please save me a good seat.
Sure.
And again, like, this is for me, I've been a board member for a few years. I'm the treasurer. I was the incoming treasurer. And for me, this is an honor. People that aren't in our business say, oh, well, I don't know why you have, you really have time for that. You really, what do you get out of it? Like, what do they give you? And I'm like, what I get out of it is so much more than, something monetary, right?
Sure.
It's really an honor and a privilege to serve on RIFMA. I hope I can do it as long as I can.
I think it's great. I was a treasurer. That's where I started too. And we made a joke about it many years. I used to go to board meetings and they would say, we need a treasurer's report, Danny. And my answer would be, for fun, I would just say, we still got money. Any questions? That was it. But I learned how it worked and worked my way up, obviously, and to being a chair, but I can remember Kimberly Grant asking the same question you just mentioned about to me. What do you get out of RIFMA? I said, you know what? What I get is being there a couple days before it starts, and I'm there for all the board meetings. So at night, we're probably sitting in the bar and everybody's just talking. And you know what? I realize that my problems are the same that everybody else has.
Sure.
And that makes me feel better. I'm not because I always thought it's just me. Everybody else got it figured out and it's me. Well, it isn't me. It's everybody. And listening to people having the very same issues I have. And then if you're good at, you're good at being quiet and listening, which I'm not, but I learned, you'll learn stuff. Somebody's going to give you an idea that's 10 times better than what you're doing. And you don't have to Google it. You don't have to do anything. You just got to sit there and listen and take that.
Oh, yes.
And then go do it. And it's the best you can get,
And there's so many different perspectives,
Sure.
It's I still remember the first time, because we had gone a little while when I left Ruby's. We had gone a little while without seeing each other, and one you saw me at one of the conferences, and you said, "What are you doing here? how did they let you in?" And God, 15 years later, here we are, right?
Yours is a great story, Gene, and we have many friends that we share. And one of the things I did, I said, I remember after seeing you that first time, we took a picture, which we did every year together. And I said to somebody, I said, you know what? If you take every Ruby director known to man, for all the years I worked there, which is almost all my life, and you said, who won't be a facility guy? Who's the guy I circle? I was like, there's a lot of people I thought, they do facilities and so on. And I'm like, no, Gene's not. He's going to do restaurant operations and so on forever. And look how it kind of comes out. And I think that's great, because people, as they evolve in their career opportunities, and like you said, somebody said you need to do this for a while and then you can do that. Sure, I'm your guy.
We jump in. That's what we do.
Same story as me. Lee Wallace came and said, we got 7 restaurants. Can you do facilities? Yeah, I can.
Sure.
What do you want me to do? Just tell me what you want me to do. I'm your guy. I mean, that's that kind of attitude. And I think a lot of that was Ruby Tuesday attitude too. A whole bunch of people who worked really hard and never said no and said, just bring it on. We'll get it figured out. It'll be done. Just give it to us. And worked really hand in hand. I think that's helped both of us as we've moved through our career.
Yes, for sure.
What's the biggest lesson, Gene, you've learned in facility management?
God, be passionate. Don't, I always, my wife says, you're passionate about too many things. You're passionate about everything. And that's how be passionate. I'm a big fan of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan always said, trust but verify, right?
Trust but verify.
That's my boss, Scott, at CPK said, follow up, close the loop and follow up again. I think all of those things are very important, but it all goes back to that first thing we talked about, which is build relationships, right? And it's funny because the relationships we've built over the years, and you become friends with those people.
Sure.
There's a business relationship, and then there's a friends relationship, and you naturally just grow and become friends. But I learned so many lessons, but those are probably the things that really stand out.
Right. And I've told this story before, and so people have heard it, but it was funny in the last month or so. I've had conversation with Richard Flaherty, Bart Fricks, Max Pitt, Pat Peters.
Yeah.
None of us
with all of them on Facebook.
Yeah. And they each called and we spoke about a different topic, but hey, I want your opinion on something, or I want to talk about something. And we haven't worked together in over 12 years, Gene. And or your good friend Lynn Wilson, hey Danny, I got a problem in New York and I put a 4-foot grill outside the hood. Yeah. Years until this happens, and then you do, those are, as you said, those are friendships, those are relationships, those are trust things that have been built up for a ton of years to where you still can have conversations with people and help each other out.
Yeah. I still call Gina and say, hey, how you doing? How's and it's so funny because I remember her, 2 girls being born and now they're graduating college and doing, and it's like, wow, you follow those people your whole life. You've seen their children grow up, and it's just an amazing, amazing family. That's the best word for it. Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of that, Tom, and I'll go lighthearted here for a second, but kind of give a quick interaction of what happened back in the day, Gene, when you were an operating partner for Ruby's, and I'm doing the facility job, and let's just say a mistake was made, or we bought some stuff and forgot to let anybody know, or we went ahead and made some decisions that no one knew about, and we are practicing the perfection of asking for forgiveness after.
I had a feeling you might bring that up. One of our best stories. I don't really consider it a mistake. I always, things always came back a little bit more expensive than you thought, and
Sure.
I always spent more money than I was allowed. I forget what my approval limit was, but it was probably $5,000, which bought a whole lot more back then than it does now.
Sure. Right.
I think now that same approval level probably would be $20,000. But for those watching, there was a few times where I made decisions and did things and bought things and made improvements that were a little bit above my budget or my level that I was approved to, and I had to ask Danny for forgiveness. And he always gave me a really hard time, but then always said, "Okay, because you made the right decision.
Sure.
You made the right decision." May I add, though, that I don't give my operators the same courtesy that you gave me. I'm a little tougher than you were. So, but funny, another just great story we love to talk about.
Oh, all the time. People would say, Gene's on the phone. I'm like, crap. Now what?
Here we go.
Yeah, what did he do? So here we go. Yeah, and there were a lot of y'all too, Gene. I mean, it's there's probably I don't know how many area directors and regional folks we had, but over
900 restaurants.
Yeah, different people, And one of the thing is if I let you do it, I got 95 more people that are going to figure it out, and they're going to do it too. And pretty soon,
I didn't tell anybody else. I didn't tell anybody else. Or I told them, I said, "Oh my, Danny really gave me a hard time."
Yeah, absolutely. Don't tell them, because I mean, 90-something people, I'll be $2 million over budget.
I think it was 2 million just for me.
Oh, we're about to wrap up here, but kind of talk just a minute about currently with Mendocino Farms. You mentioned kind of their growth period, but how do you kind of see that going over the next 5 to 10 years?
Boy, we are on fire. We were about to open restaurant store number 70. In 5 years, we're going to be at 150 locations.
Right.
Probably in most major cities. We're looking right now in Chicago and the East Coast, everywhere. 10 years, I see us as a very prominent, more well-known company, because most of our locations are here in California. Out of the 70 we have right now, I think we have 58 in California. So if you're California, Mendocino Farms. If you're other places, Texas, Seattle, Houston, Dallas, soon to be Denver in a few short months, you're going to know us. I got in 10 years, Danny, I see us, well over 250 locations, maybe more, probably in most major cities around the U.S. You're gonna know Mendocino Farms for sure.
That is great. Well, yeah. It's great catching up, and it's great for people to listen. I think both of us, given our backgrounds and stuff, skill sets necessarily, are they facility people and so on? No, not really. You kind of give it to us and tell me what you want me to do, and I'll go figure it out kind of people. And we built that career with listening and working with lots of really good people and for really good people, and then learning and not being afraid to ask the question,
Yeah, one of the things, Danny, is being former military and once a Marine, always a Marine. You're always very focused on your mission. And I love getting things done. I love saying, hey, look at another store built, another one remodeled, another refrigerator fixed, whatever,
Sure.
right?
Right.
I just love crossing things off that list and moving on to the next 10 or 15 things. Um, and mission accomplished.
I think that's wonderful. That's
Yeah,
great. And for people out there to listen, you don't have to have all the skills and stuff. You just got to have that passion and that want to, I'm going to figure it out. I'm
sure.
just going to figure it out and do the best I can. I'm going to be
Yeah,
truthful. I'm going to be loyal. I'm going to try to do the right thing. And I'm going to be honest
yeah.
in all my dealings. That's what you got to do. If you can do that, you can do anything.
And it got us both here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for your time, Gene.
My pleasure.